This is a presentation on Writing in the Collaborative Classroom by Megan Hildebrand for EDU 743, Connecting Reading with Writing for Success at the University of New England. In most areas of our lives, we are not isolated. Collaborating with others is just a fact of life. In an educational setting, research shows that students have much to gain from their interactions with one another. Specifically in regards to the writing process, students who practice collaborative components of the process come to better understand and practice essential writing, revising, and editing skills. So why collaborate? Writing as a public communal act. Rather than keeping the writing process as a private and isolated one, collaboration helps students to become more self-aware. Oftentimes, students write papers that make sense to them but aren't clear to others, and peer editing can help students understand that they aren't writing just for themselves, but for the reader or readers as well. A sense of audience. Having a sense of audience is a higher level skill when it comes to the writing process. Often, students see their only audience as their teachers, but when they collaborate with peers, they have more of a concrete sense of an audience, as it is the person sitting right in front of them reading their work. Academic discourse. Students who struggle with certain writing conventions will begin to learn of their errors in a more authentic way when they see where their readers stumble when talking about their papers with their peers. Analyzing writing. Oftentimes, it's easier to point out the errors in someone else's writing than finding the flaws in one's own writing. Therefore, collaboration not only helps one another, but opens up a student's eyes to where they might have their own errors. Understanding the writing process. The best way to master something is to teach it. Therefore, when discussing and instructing with their peers, students inevitably learn how to improve their own writing. The reality of the real world. Screen-based literacy makes up the majority of our students' reading, writing, and collaborating outside of the classroom. In their world, children are learning to read and create all forms of digital texts as they engage in online conversations and various digital platforms. However, in the classroom, the tendency is to still have students use pen or pencil and paper and use tangible books as resources, which means that we may not be practicing in the classroom is becoming increasingly irrelevant to their real-life experiences. So rather, what we're doing in the classroom, while it might hold a lot of weight, might not be preparing them for the real world. Similarly, as they grow up and enter the working world, collaboration and teamwork is not only encouraged, but is expected. Therefore, we may not be appropriately preparing them for their future lives outside of the classroom if we do not begin to increase their skills and practice with collaboration, and in particular, the digital world. So Google Docs is a common form now of a digital platform for writing. Using Google Docs within a collaborative classroom means that it is learner-centered, there is collaboration, there's immediate feedback from either peers or from teachers alike. Students are making connections both with their peers, with previous documents, with teachers, with resources online, and it is highly accessible. Google Docs has a variety of different accessibility features for all students. Therefore, it is extremely learner-centered. The collaboration is right there as students can share documents with one another and with their teacher. Google Docs in my classroom. So I use Google Docs mostly for the writing process and therefore for collaboration and teacher feedback. Students hand in their final versions of their essay within an English Google Docs folder, and I do all of my grading and correcting within the document for them. So in terms of the writing process, there's pre-writing, which can be done within either the actual document that they're going to use to be their final version, their final draft of their essay, or they can create multiple documents. Editing is where peer editing may start to come in, or their own editing. The great thing about Google Docs is it tracks all of your changes, so therefore they can go back to an older version and they or a parent or a teacher or a peer can see the edits they already made. And then submission, their final submission is made in an English folder where all of their writing for the whole year is kept and organized in various folders for the units that we do. And even over the course of years, so once you have another teacher, you still will have all of that writing that you've done over the previous years. And then in terms of collaboration and teacher feedback, the peer editing is a huge piece that comes in during the writing process. This can be done either in class or even outside of class, as Google Docs goes with them everywhere. Group writing, I have done a variety of assignments where students have to compile one fluid essay or one fluid report in the end, but they all have to compile different pieces. They have to come up with the same, they have to write over it so that there's the right tone, the right audience in consideration, so that it doesn't sound like it's multiple people writing one fluid essay. And then the comments or the suggesting mode that is in the document is a great way for teachers to not necessarily make all the edits in the document for them, but to make a suggestion, which might just be a period or another piece of punctuation or a full comment about an entire piece. And then the students, when they open up the document again, they will see all of the comments and all of the corrections right in the document in a different color from the teacher. Here are two documents as examples of how I use this process. So for the pre-writing, I give them their own Google Doc that they can fill in for themselves within their own folder. And so then it's questions that I'm asking them for a specific piece of writing, and then they can fill it in right there. So that's their brainstorm right inside Google Docs. And then in terms of when I start doing kind of the collaboration, they do some workshopping within class, and I usually give them a document just like this one that has specific areas that they should be looking to proofread for and have peers edit for. This way, students are excessively collaborating with multiple people and they're getting multiple audiences, which can only help strengthen the writing process for them. In conclusion, from my own experiences as well as from the research, I have found that students find collaboration, especially collaborative writing, more natural than the teacher may feel about it. Students absolutely tend to gravitate to this platform and to this way of life in the classroom more than teachers may be prepared to introduce it to them. Specifically, in using a digital platform like Google Docs, students actually use it more to help proofread and edit for one another or work on a group task than solely when they are assigned to do so. Oftentimes, I will see students taking out their laptops, since we're a one-to-one school, when I didn't even tell them to, and they're using it to create group notes, or if they're about to give even just a little presentation so that they're on the same page, so they don't have to be looking over each other's shoulders, they can actually see it right in the document together in real time. And collaborative writing has endless possibilities in every content area and within every classroom. Collaborative writing is something that, especially in the sciences, even in the maths, in social studies, in all of the areas and all of the contents that anyone can think of, there is ways to add in collaborative writing, whether it is for a final piece that is for a lot of points or a lot of weight, or it's just something simple in an academic learning activity during the class period. Collaborating over writing is something that's not only going to benefit our students during the writing process, but also in the future as they get out into the real world.